HarperCollins presents What It Was Like to Be an Ancient Greek by David Long. Read by Mark Oosterveen. Chapter 1. A Highly Advanced Society. Who were the ancient Greeks? Around 3,000 years ago, the ancient Greeks created one of the world's most advanced and impactful civilizations. More than 7 million people occupied large areas of rocky, mountainous land in southern Europe, which they named Hellas. About half of them lived on the mainland in an area that is now known as Greece. The remainder built their homes along the coastline and on hundreds of small islands in what is now Italy, Turkey, and North Africa. At this time, the Greeks called themselves Hellenes. They organized themselves into individual city-states rather than forming one large nation or an empire. Each state, known as a polis, was run separately from the others. The people living in them all shared a similar culture, and they spoke the same language, but each polis had its own customs and laws and rulers. The largest and richest of these states included Athens, Corinth, Delphi, Sparta, and Thebes. These cities fought many violent battles with each other until Athens and Sparta gradually emerged as the most powerful. These two rival cities were at war for decades, and Athens eventually came out on top. It was the most important city in Hellas when the states finally came together in the 4th century BCE. Athens became the magnificent capital of Greece, just over 2,000 years later. Alexander the Great was their most famous leader, ruling from 336 to 323 BCE. Under him, the Greeks established themselves as the dominant power in Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa. At one point, his enormous empire stretched from Egypt to India. Alexander was a superb military commander, but a ruthless dictator. His armies conquered so much new territory that it was difficult to rule or defend those areas properly. This meant his empire didn't last very long. However, even when it began to break up, Alexander's conquests across the world meant that many aspects of the Greeks' language, art, and ideas spread far and wide. This is important because the ancient Greeks were highly advanced and sophisticated compared to other countries of the world. Most of them worked as farmers and fishermen to feed their families, but others studied hard to become brilliant astronomers, navigators, and philosophers. Some Greeks worked as expert traders and teachers, artists and athletes, even scientists, although the Greek language didn't have a word to describe what we think of as science today. The ancient Greeks' finest artworks and their greatest inventions were later copied by the Romans when they began to establish their own empire. This was even larger than Alexander's and based in the same area. The Romans weren't the only people to admire the wisdom and learning of the ancient Greek civilization. Their knowledge and culture spread so widely that the ancient Greeks still influence how we live our lives today, and in some surprising ways. Chapter 2. Everyday Life. The People and Their Rulers. There were around 1,000 city-states in ancient Greece. Most of these were surrounded by strong stone walls for defense, and each one had its own form of government and way of deciding which laws the citizens had to obey. Some were monarchies, such as Macedonia, which meant they were ruled by kings or sometimes a queen. Others were oligarchies,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?